Welcome today to Small Town Legends Podcast. Today we have TJ Shelton. TJ Shelton's from Meeker, Colorado. He is a football three-time first team all conference, first team all state, Western Slope Player of the Year. He is a state champion in track, runner up, and that was in the 100, right? Was that in the 100?
Yes, sir.
And then you're runner up in the 100 and in the 200, I'm sure, in some different years, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we also have the wrestling. I saved the best for last because I think I loved football more in high school, but now that I'm older, I love wrestling and coached it. So a four-time state champ. He was the 19th four-time state champ in Colorado history. His total record is 146-11. And he is the first freshman in Meeker history to become a state champion. On top of that, he's a pretty smart guy too. He had a 3.99 high school grade point average. He also, when he graduated high school, got his associate's degree, and then he went on to the Colorado School of Mines and got a bachelor's. And you also have your MS as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, welcome, man. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking the time and inviting me to this, and excited to do it.
Well, the goal of this podcast is just trying to help small town athletes reach their full potential. And I got some courses I'm trying to help them, but we're trying to dig into small town legends because in a small town, if you're any good, people know who you are everywhere you go, and it's kind of cool to be a small town legend. And I remember I heard about you. I came back. I was in California. I got out of the Marine Corps and we stayed out there for a while. And I came back, and I think it was one of Ryan's kids that was playing sports in Meeker. And then they said, "There's TJ," and then they gave me the story. I think you were a senior that year. I can't remember, but your legend always your your legend status was told to me while I was there. So it's kind of cool to have you aboard.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Hopefully, I'm not disappointment. You should probably tell those words to my wife. She thinks the opposite sometimes.
Well, that's good because
Yeah,
they keep us in line, right? When our heads swell too
absolutely.
much. Well, first couple of questions. I'm also this program's also for coaches and parents. So I have two questions, and then we'll get into some deeper questions. Um, for a coach, was there a time a coach helped you through a hard time, either sports, academics, or life that you remember? Hope you're enjoying this interview. I just wanted to tell you about the 21-day boot camp challenge we're working on. Um, it'll be a challenge for coaches, for parents, for athletes, and it just helps them to get their mind right and focused on their season. If you're interested and want more information, click on the 21-day challenge link below.
Yeah. One thing that I would say has probably been the biggest, um, I guess, attribute that I could point to would be that coaching. I mean, I've always been a very coachable person. I've prided myself on that. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gullible or do things blindly. I've always believed in getting a little piece of the best of every person that
Mm.
you're around. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of great coaches in my life. Um, One particular that I'm going to bring up, and I mean, not that I didn't have other people, but Barney LeBlanc was a huge part of my life. And success growing up in high school. So I had great coaches growing when I was in middle school or elementary school to middle school. I had great coaches. I've been very blessed with that.
Mm.
But one that points that or sticks out to me is Barney LeBlanc. Because when we were in the wrestling room, uh, I mean, he would come in and he was my wrestling partner. Not and I also had other peers of mine that were wrestling partners, but he would come in after work and spend up to an hour and a half almost every night. He had a whole full-time job, and he'd come in, and he was my partner, and we worked on things extra. That was extra in the room, and, I didn't think about that time investment, until I was much older, um, but that's huge for an adult. He had kids, they were young, and he chose to spend his time with me, which is kind of amazing when you start to think about stuff like that. Kinda tells you that the caliber of people that I was exposed to, and again, I had, JC Watt, Willie Theus, Lee Overton. I mean, those were in the high school years. I
Yeah.
know I'm probably missing a few more, um, but just on the spot, I'm not very witty, if you can't tell,
Oh, that's
but,
all right, man. Hey, that's great
yeah.
because I can definitely identify with that. And
Yeah.
it seems like small towns have that where coaches work. They're not just in the school. And Brett Byers was that guy for me. Since I needed, we didn't have as much competition sometimes. So he wrestled with me all the time. So I got better my junior year. And he definitely, I can say the same thing. So that is cool. Now, what about parents? How did your parents encourage you in high school?
Yeah, again, I've been very blessed with, the family that I grew up in. My mom was very driven and is very driven. Same with my dad. Again, kind of take that stuff for granted when you're older or until you're older.
Right.
But they pushed me. They always pushed me to do the best that I could, be the best I could be. And you when you're 16, 15, whatever, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to listen, but I again coming back to the coachable thing, um I would listen to them. And they did their best at giving me advice. Sometimes maybe I chose the wrong decision. Because at the end of the day, it's all about decisions. Life's about decisions, right?
Oh yeah.
But my parents, they invested a lot of time in myself and my siblings, more than most parents would. And again, I didn't see that growing up, but now I do.
Right.
And that's a huge, huge thing. And again, both of these questions kind of tie in. Is There's a lot of people, especially in a small town. I'm sure in larger communities they have this as well, but I think it's very prolific in small towns. That it is the community, your family, and the people around you that are pushing you and making you who you are. I would definitely be in a different spot if I didn't have the family I did,
Mm.
if I didn't have the coaching, and I didn't have the people in my life that I had. Because trust me, I'm not always great with making the best decision. I try to. I try to keep my integrity, and try to make the right decision based on what I feel is best at the right time at that given time. But sometimes you don't know what the right decision is at the time, so you got to lean on those people.
Yeah. And I've been on both side as a parent, with my child and trying to help them and I know more now that they're out of school than I did when they were in school. And the same thing, just like you're talking about, when you're in school, you don't realize it as much, but trying to just give parents something that they can take from this interview to do, um, with their kid. What were just some little thing besides just saying you can be the best that your parents did? Was there, like, let's say you're struggling like we all did in high school with our emotions and everything else. What did they do to help you get through that?
I would say
Mhm.
it was little things that my parents did. One thing that has always stuck with me, and my father always told me this, and my siblings growing up is we don't care what you're good at, but if you're gonna do something, be good at it.
Mm,
Don't I mean, they never pushed me to do sports or be good at. I mean, sorry, let me rephrase that. They never forced me to do any sport, to do my best in school. That's all things I wanted to do because of the way that they treated me and the people around me treated me. right?
Mhm.
I didn't wanna let anybody down, and I didn't wanna let myself down, right? At the end of the day, you gotta think about yourself a little bit on that. But again, I think that little piece is if you're gonna do something, be good at it, right? And again, that I've taken that past sports to my career. Um, it didn't matter what I was gonna do. I was gonna work my best to be the best at it that I could possibly be.
Well, you seem to have that gene of pushing yourself. So let's kind of go into that mode a little bit. How did you push yourself in high school? Because there's not many four-time state champs, and I don't think I reached my full potential because I didn't push myself hard enough. And that's another reason I want this. I'm putting up courses for kids just to reach their full potential. And you seem to reach more of your potential than most. So what was it about that time? How did you do it? Give us some insight on that.
I wish I could say it was one thing. And the truth is I don't know what the secret concoction is. And I trust me, I didn't do everything that I wanted and set out to do. Um, but it was one of those things where I I guess it was about trying to do the best thing at any given time. It's your day is filled with micro decisions. And I always would have in my head, well, if I had just run to this point, right? Maybe that point's a mile for whatever workout you're doing. Or if I do one extra rep, that'll get me 2x point. Let's say that gets me qualified to state. Then you get to that extra that end finish line, and I always had in the back of my head, well, let's just go a little bit more because that might be the difference. That might be the difference between going to state and going to um I guess going to replacing a state. And then again, you get to that same next point that you went to. And again, what the next guy is he's probably ran 2 miles, right?
Uh,
So I always had that in my head, and I don't know what caused that. I couldn't tell you where that came from, um, but it's micro decisions when you're picking something to eat, when you're deciding what you're going to do that night. I was always, and I still do have stuff like that in my head, running constantly. Of, well, what's this? What happen if I did this? Well, if I did this, I'm always kind of or always making these micro decisions within my own head of what's right and wrong. And it's not when I mean right and wrong, I mean what's right to get me to the goal that I have.
mm,
Not necessarily a moral right and wrong. Because I mean, how many people were running an extra mile or 2 miles, whatever it was at that point? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact that I had set that goal and then I just kept pushing it once I got there. Well, I can do a little bit more. I can just keep going. I think that's the biggest thing that I could say if I could pick one thing out of the woodpile for that.
I like that. You ever heard of Jocko Willinks?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that would say, "Well, the enemy's working, so I got to work. The enemy's shooting, so I got to shoot." And I think that's kind of what you're talking about right there. And that's a good mindset. I think a high school athlete, if he has that mindset, it will push him. And hopefully, I didn't think like that much. You heard it a little bit from the coach, but that kind of mindset is huge because that does push you. And you said goals. What were some of your goals? Because again, when I coach wrestling, um, they wrote down some goals at first, but I don't think it was really pushed that much. And I think goals are so huge because your future helps you organize your present and it drives you that way. So, what were some of your goals in high school?
You know, a lot of them were just to be the best I could, right? And that's more open-ended. And it was almost to me, there's some milestones in there. Um, Winning state my freshman year, right? That was something that I wanted to do, but it was all part of the overarching goal of being the best wrestler that I could. It wasn't a f There was a couple finish lines or milestones, but there was I guess finish line is not the right word because there never was one. The finish line was constant growth,
A growth
which
mindset.
does not have a finish line per se. It has just milestones along the way. And that's a dangerous mindset too, is, you get to the next thing and then what, right? You got to constantly have a milestone to look at. But I would say that that's got to be the biggest mindset I had. I don't know if goal is the correct term, but it was because it was micro goals. I wanted to win. I really wanted to place at state. Once I got there, I knew that I had a chance, right? And JC Watt, he was my coach. I think him and Lee Overton my freshman year. And it was one of those things. I had had a pretty decent freshman year, but it wasn't anything where they were expecting me to go. I mean, all the state or all the coaches at state wrestling for the finals, they dress up and wear suit coats, or they dress up more than they would for normal matches usually. Well, my coaches didn't even have a jacket or a coat; they had to go buy one.
Good.
Um, So that's just more, I mean, it ties into that constant progression. Well, I'm here. Well, we might as well go the next step,
Mm.
and the next step. And, it all is in that overarching goal of trying to be the best that you can possibly be in every facet of your life. If you're going to do it, be good.
Yeah, well, that's good. I like it because if you don't reach some goals that you set, you feel like a failure per se. This is a goal that you just be the best that you can be, which I think is very important. Now, when you wrestled, did you do a lot of wrestling? Did you wrestle in the summertime, or did you just wrestle some of the time, and or what was it like?
Well, when I was growing up, I was very fortunate. I can't, I don't remember the specific seasons that we had or how long they were. But my parents did take me, and we had a couple, again, the community that I was raised in. We had a couple families, and this isn't the whole community of Meeker, and that's not to say anything bad about them, but it was a select couple families that were willing to take the time and carpool. I bet you four of us to Craig for competitive wrestling, and that was very, very contentious within Meeker because we were going to Craig for something. And to be honest, that was probably the one thing that um, probably shaped the way I think about things more than a lot of the other things that you could say were in my or that I experienced. I saw a lot of division and parents that they hated that we were going and doing something for another
Mm.
school. But at the end of the day, it was our parents were doing something for us. And it wasn't just my parents, it was multiple families
Yeah,
doing the same thing. And so that was probably one of the biggest ones. We traveled around the country. And again, I understand that I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. Um, and kind of growing up, going through middle school, same thing. I would still do a lot of this stuff nationally. When high school started, I would love to say that I worked all the time on wrestling, but I didn't. I was a three-sport athlete, and that also hindered part of my wrestling sometimes. I went, and when it was wrestling season, it was wrestling season. My favorite sport was football. I
yeah,
loved football. Football was my favorite. You know, I loved everything about it. Wrestling practice, sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't. But I tended to be better at wrestling. But I did train during the summers. I always constantly was working, but I wasn't really on the mat or anything. It was summers were for football.
yeah,
Um, and then right after wrestling, this is where the hindrance comes in. Is right after wrestling was track season, and that's great, but that's when a lot of your Virginia Beach Nationals, where you start seeing, and then like I'm going to screw up the acronym, NCHA, National Dual Team. All of that stuff was after after the official CHSA season. Well, I did get invited to those, dual teams, and I did that, but it was in the middle of track season, so I hadn't been on a mat for, let's call it a month, I don't know. I never went to Virginia Beach because I was in track season. Um, I would like to say that I regret it, but track also gave me a lot of opportunities and helped me, in my opinion, to develop my athleticism in a different way. That also helped me for football. That also helped me for wrestling. Um, but yeah, that's I would say, yeah, I it was pretty segmented in the seasons that I was training for. I would step out and do stuff, but I would say that I was, not as prepared as I should be if I wanted to really compete at that level in high school because I didn't train for it. I would just show up to they'd have like a 2-day training camp before we'd leave for Indiana. I would show up, I don't remember, 10, 15 pounds overweight, hadn't touched a mat in a month. So I'm still a little rusty, but I mean, I don't have any regret with that, but it's something to be heads up on that I could have probably focused a little bit more on some of that stuff, but I think the segmentation was also good for me personally. It might not be for everybody.
It's still I like that. I played 3 sports as well. Baseball was the other sport, and I loved it. I was like you, loved football. I actually went to Adams State and, for a semester and played football or practice football, let's be real. Um, but, I like the multiple sports. It seems like nowadays people just go into one, and I was talking to one of, my nephews, and he was talking about how did you not get burnt out, and it's probably more of a question for you because in my day we didn't have as much stuff going on. We didn't have as many tournaments. I did a few freestyle tournaments in Grand Junction, that kind of stuff, but weren't as busy. It sounds like you were busy going to Craig and that kind of stuff. How'd you not get burnout in sports?
I think that I have to attribute a lot of that to my parents. They kind of kept their pulse on it, even though I don't know how, because I don't know why I didn't get burnout. I knew that, like, I didn't always want to go to wrestling practice. Half the time, I hated going to practice. I hated driving to Craig in the middle of winter, bad and getting home late. Um, I would actually kind of be happy when they'd cancel it because the roads were too bad, and we'd be happy about it. Um, but at the end of the day, it was the never, and this is used way too much in my opinion, the never quit attitude, because you see people say that they're not gonna quit, but they do. They
Mhm.
end up do or they end up quitting. But I wouldn't even say it was necessarily that. I'd take that with a grain of salt. It was more just the again, wanting to I knew that eventually that would make me better at what I was doing. And I had the mentality too, is I mean, I said it earlier, the track. I knew track was gonna make me more explosive and
Mhm.
faster for football and wrestling, right? Wrestling, I knew was gonna make me better for football and track. And then football, I knew would eh, I don't know how much it was making me better for wrestling, but I'd like to think I probably had a reason back
Hey,
then for it. But
stand up, right? Get on
yeah,
the road for a stand up, I guess. I don't know.
yep. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know why some people burn out and some people don't. I just never hit that wall. I const and I want to attribute that to my parents. But there's nothing I can put my finger on. There's just some people that do and some people that don't. And that's not any stripe or swipe at anybody. But some people just don't like it. Some people have better things to do. Some people have other circumstances that don't allow them to focus on sports, and then they attribute that to burnout, and that's their excuse. Not that they can control some of it, right? It might be financial, it might be health related, um, but burnout seems to be a easy way out, all catch
Mhm.
all for a lot of reasons that may or may not be in someone's control. I fortunately never hit that wall.
Well, and I think, there's possible. Sometimes parents put too much pressure on their kids. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
got some parents that don't put any pressure, and the kids just kind of do whatever. And then you got parents that put too much pressure. I can see that being a burnout issue if
Yes.
parents had too much pressure.
I I would say that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, and it was when I was growing up. You seeing you hear about it, wrestling moms, wrestling dads at pee wee tournaments. Like, when I was reffing when I was a high school kid, you'd have dads get in your face, moms get in your face over like a 5-year-old's match. It doesn't matter at that point. It doesn't. There's no college
No.
scouts in the stadium or in the stands, and they're probably not going to remember. I don't remember any of that. And I've seen a lot of fantastic, fantastic, talented people end up not even wrestling in high school, and they could have probably went to college D1, done great things, but they didn't even wrestle. And but you see that with parents that they say they don't care. They say that they're not going to push their kids, but they do. And they make excuses to find ways to, say, "Oh, well, that's just one time," or "That won't happen again." I don't do that. They just straight up lie to themselves that they don't, but that is a huge thing for kids. And I don't know how you coach that, because that is a parenting you gotta coach the parents on that, because that is a huge reason that some kids hate a sport. And it's not because they don't love them or anything, that the parents are trying to help them, but they are almost doing it in a way that is making it way worse.
Well, I'm glad you say that because there's 3 courses I'm coming up with. 3, not 4, 3. Um, and one of them is for the parents because I see that, as an issue, and it's not something that, people focus on really is how are they gonna bring up their kid in a sport? You just kinda wing it, and I think that leaves it as a parent and having kids out of the house, there's some things that I messed up. I would redo again, um, and And so I'm trying to come up with I will come up. I already have the outline and everything for parents. And I come up with 7 general orders, military minded, that kind of stuff. So it's 7 general order for parents. And the whole concept is like a triangle. You have the coach, the parent, and you have the kid up top. And the base helps the kid grow in his sports life. So if the coach and the parent can get on the same program per se, and it's all related, all the course that I'm bringing, that kid can go higher and higher. And I've seen it just like you that parents um, just don't know how to approach that. And I get that. I have 2 degrees as well, and one of them psychology degree and family studies, and that kind of gives me just an insight and a bent to try to help families to push through that and to learn and to have a parent have a growth mindset like we're talking about. We want the kid to do all this stuff, but the parent is not. So anyway, um, let's move on. How did you be like before a game or before a match? I definitely miss Fridays, by the way. Fridays was probably the best day football season. I did nothing in school that day except think about the game. But what did you do? Did you have a routine before? I had a routine before a wrestling match. Football is a little different because they put you through a routine. But did you have a routine? Something you thought about? Something that you can give some kid insight to?
I would say, that kind of routine. I was very I'm blanking on the word right now. I was very superstitious growing up.
Of
So
course, we all were.
yeah, so I did some weird things, some things that I can't even explain. Like, I'd listen to a certain song every time that I was about to wrestle a match, but I had to kick my right leg before or during one part of the song. And like, if I'd be mid stride, just walking or, warming up, jumping around. And I'm off. I had to be looking weird, because if I would make myself jolt just to kick that right leg. I'd have to put my socks on left, right, shoes on left, right, take them off, right, left, right, left. Um, those were some of the weird things that I did, but some of the things that those have and one more weird one, but growing up, I had to put my wallet in a corner. We had a corner on our or corner on the counter in the kitchen, and I always had to put my wallet directly square with that corner. And if I didn't, I would have a bad day, right? So again, I'm weird. Um, but some of the things that didn't stop. Um, I would I would uh I guess I've never really talked about this, but it ties in again to everything that I've been saying is, I'd even in college, I'd get down and I'd pray, and I wouldn't pray to win because I think that's silly. I would always pray to for both me and my opponent to perform to the best of our
Mm.
abilities. Um, and to make sure that there was no injury, and that at the end of the day, that's trust in me and what I've done to that point. It's not and if I didn't, it's probably because I lost or because I didn't prepare enough. It was never to win. It was always to perform to the best of my ability. And everything that I've done to that point was to get to the best of my ability. If it wasn't enough, then that's why I lost.
Hmm.
So I guess it's the same theme, and I've never connected those dots until actually talking about it because it's not like I've talked about this a whole lot, but again, just hoping I can perform to the best of my ability and stay healthy, and also have my opponent perform at the same level because I don't want to win and think about it the rest of my life like I got lucky, right?
You're right.
I want to win because I did it.
Because you put in the work.
Yeah.
Well, then, so I asked Brett, the guy in the last show as well, what you had 11 losses in there.
hmm
What what did you do? Were you good with a loss? How did you react to that?
I think, yeah, I was not one of those guys, and I always hated this too. And you see it a lot as people throwing hissy fits. I did not. And I mean, you can ask other people. I was very against showing any emotion in public. Was I upset? Absolutely. But throwing a fit on the mat, on the field, and sometimes people get, I mean, sometimes there's a lot of stake or there's high stakes, and I get that. But losing was one thing that was between me and myself. And sometimes it was a mistake I made. Maybe I didn't listen to a coach when he told me to do something, or I screwed up and I did something. I didn't pull a trigger on it on attacking like I should have. Whatever that might be, yeah, it sucked. I actually never had a undefeated season in all
Oh,
4
really?
years. Yeah, it's I always at least lost one match every year. One of them was I was winning 15 or 14-1 or something.
Oh
I was
man.
going in for the last takedown, and this is a duel in Craig. I wrestled up a weight. Um, I wish I could remember the fellow's name, but I wrestled up a weight to duel him, and I was showboating a little bit, and that wasn't like me. That was not normal, but I was in Craig, and there's some history there. And I went in for a high crotch, and he whipped me straight to my back and pinned me. If I would have gotten that takedown, I would have teched him.
Oh my goodness.
That was the only loss I had had in my sophomore year. Was that my sophomore year? No, it was my junior year. That was my junior year. But and then 2 weeks before regionals, my senior year, I lost to uh, Miles Wilson, a guy I grew up with. Fantastic wrestler. Went on to wrestle for Iowa.
Mm.
That was the first time I'd been taken down that entire year. Um, and he beat me. And then the next week, he's from Glenwood. He came in and we practiced together. but I did not throw a fit. I was upset. I was very upset. Um, but I tried to limit my emotions and try to take it for what it was. It's not the end of the world. Um, and I'm gonna kind of bring it back to that. If you let that get to you, if I would have let getting taken down get to me, yeah, I would not have a fourth state title. My senior year at the state finals, the guy I had only been taken down one other time by Miles Wilson that year. That kid took me down 2 times in the first period. I was down 4-1, and I was going for my 4th state title. That if I would have just let that get to me, and I would have lost my head or thought more of my I think everyone thinks that because you're successful, at a sport or something, you're full of yourself, and you can't let that ego get to you. But that I'd like to think I'm not like that, and was able to keep my head cool and ended up there's more than just my 4 time on the line. I had to win by bonus points in that match, and I was able to come out ahead and get a major instead
Mm.
of just a decision to win a team title as well, or have the chance. It was not a guarantee. Um, so yeah, I think having your head and being humble about it is very big. Win- Winning and losing is very similar. You see guys that do crazy stuff, and I'm going to attribute this to Willie Theus, and I think this goes for winning and losing. I don't know if you know Willie Theus, but again,
A little bit.
yeah, he has a huge impact on my has had a huge impact on my life. And, um, I have nothing but good things to say about him. And when I was a freshman, it was kind of a shocker when I won. It wasn't a shocker, but it was not expected. I'll say that, and it was a very big surprise. And what I did was I raised my hands up and I did the one.
Mhm.
And there's a picture of it, cool. But I look back at it, thought it was kind of silly, and my dad and mom ripped me for it. I didn't go around and do a bunch of stuff. I didn't yell. I didn't do a whole lot except for I was just so happy, right?
Yeah.
Well, Willie, uh, I can't remember if I think it was my sophomore. It had to have been my sophomore year, and we're heading to the bus to um, go to state wrestling, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Yeah, we're not doing this." And I said, he said, I can't remember exactly what he said. I'd have to think more on it, but he said, "This is all right. This is cool. This is something. This is special. I don't want to see any fingers until you have this."
Mm.
So if you go back, I was emotionless when I won on the mat. I wasn't happy. I wasn't not happy, but I knew in my head that if I gloated and was kind of acted, and you see it a lot, people just winning big matches, they'll make a huge scene. But I wasn't winning the worlds. I wasn't winning the Olympics. I was winning a two-way state championship, right? Um, but I took that to heart, and I also took that same advice on the losses. I had already been there. I had lost most of my losses were in my freshman year. Um, but and I mean, just going forward in that, I've always thought of it. You win and lose the same. And the only time I really showed emotion was my senior year when I had won. That was the only real time that I'd expressed emotion. Besides my freshman year, I would say I expressed emotion. To my sophomore and junior year, very little. You would think it was just one more match.
Mm.
And I think that also leveled me.
Mm.
And I tried to keep my head in everything that I did. Same thing with football. If I got a touchdown, I'd go walk the ball back to the ref.
Right.
I didn't drop the ball. I didn't do anything with it. I didn't jump up and
No
down.
backflips.
Huh?
No
Yeah, no,
backflips.
there was no backflips. Um, Same thing with track. I won the track title when I was a freshman. So I'd won a state title for wrestling as a freshman, then I'd go and win a state title for track as a freshman. Again, no, I tried to show no emotion on that. I was happy inside, but that was for me. That wasn't for me to show everybody else.
Mm,
Because they weren't there when, I was doing that extra little bit of mileage, right? They
right.
weren't there for the next milestone. They might have watched me, but that was all in here, and that was for me.
Well, that's good. I think some parents could probably take some of that, but I know how it is too. The emotion as a parent as having a kid. You haven't reached that stage quite yet, correct?
Nope, nope.
So it's an interest. It's different for sure because you want them to win, you want them to do good. You know the emotions on them, so it's very hard, and it's hard on a parent who's being in those positions. But it sounds like your parents kept you even and helped you because I know this that you can watch in the stands. You'll sit next to a parent that maybe throws a fit or gets super emotional, and then you watch the kid do the same thing, and you know where it comes from. Parents are always being watched, um, and I don't ever remember my dad getting emotional. I remember we went into uh, four overtimes, and 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 the other team, we both scored a touchdown, but they missed the extra point, and then I kicked the extra point, and he was, "Yeah," that kinda stuff, but, and I still have that on film, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great moments.
I
But,
mean, a show of expression like that is absolutely worth it, right?
right.
It's the extreme of that. It's the negative the negative emotion. Even if it's a positive reaction, it still shows negativity, right? And it rubs off on people that you're around.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, you're always making an impression on somebody. It might be the little kid in the stands that you're never gonna see again, but he's gonna maybe it's a he might be 5 years old, I don't know, maybe 8, I don't know when kids really start to pay attention to stuff, but he might not know you, but he saw some wrestler or some football player acting, um, like a jackass
Yeah.
and think that's alright, or maybe emulate that, or maybe somewhere in his brain one day, he just makes that connection that that's how people act. There's always eyes on you, and you're always making an impact up and down, whether it's your boss or somebody you work with, um, in the real world, your teammate, your coach, you're always adding to the algorithm of of everyone else's algorithm, I guess, and I guess the mixing pot that we live in on a daily basis.
Yeah, don't be a conduit of negativity,
Yeah.
'cause it affects as much as I study the brain, it affects the brain in a way that it's incredible. There's so much information out there, and I think our society that's why I don't even watch the news anymore, because everything's negative, so part of the course that we're putting together is trying to get kids away from that to start planning their own future instead of getting on their phone and that's the first thing they do is whatever comes through, that's starting their mind process. I'm old enough to know what it's like without phones. um, you're kind of there. You're kind of in the mix, right?
Yeah, I think I got my first phone when I was in middle school, and it was not a smartphone. So, um, yeah, I think smartphones really became a thing when I was a freshman in high school. I think that's when like Snapchat came out. But still then, it was so different than what it is
Yeah.
today. I was fortunate enough, I grew up most of my childhood and, young adult life kinda shielded from that,
Yeah.
and, like, my siblings were not. They're 4 or 5 years younger than me. Um,
Are you the oldest?
yes. So I would say I'm sure the way that they're impacted is going to be different than I was or am. And I would like to say that I'm not bad on social media, but I'm sure I'm way worse than I
Yeah.
was when I was there. I mean, there's just it's designed to get your attention, to make you feel certain ways. Um, and they're not stupid. It's designed specifically there to keep your eyes on the screen. They make more money as you do it, and I am guilty of it as much as
Yeah.
anybody else. But fortunately, I was able to kind of skirt that when I was young. Um, I was kind of just in that transition period.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, I can get caught up in that stuff real easy. And it's sad that parents are missing out time with their kids sometimes as well. I've seen that. Let's move on to a thought, or just the next section of, so you made the transition to college from a small town, which to me, what was different for me, and see if you relate to this, that everyone was good. When I went and played, when we were practicing, we had the freshman games every Monday, everyone was good. And you had to really just be different. I almost wrestled, but I like to eat too much. And back then, in old days, they really forced you to lose a lot of weight. But how was that transition, and what advice would you give to a kid that is his dream to go on and play sports, and he's from a small town?
It was kind of one of those things that it was more of a culture shock to me.
Mm.
I, w- I wasn't a hillbilly or I was just a small town kid, right? But when I went to Mines, so that's where I went for college. Um, and one I want to step back here really quick, because I think this is important for young people to realize, and this is another thing that Willie Theus told me and has always stuck. And I've tried to tell anybody who asks, not that I try to give unsolicited uh, advice, but I had the optionality to go D1, um,
Mm.
but I ended up going to Colorado School of Mines, and I figured it would give me the best opportunity after college. Um, it threw me in the position I'd never been in a I had never felt that you threw me in the deep end. I'd never drowned in or drown. I don't know that I'm not an English major. Sorry, I'm an engineer. But I always find a way to swim. So I figured that would be the hardest thing. I was good at math and science, but I wasn't some super genius. I'm not. But figured if I'd throw myself in the deep end and go to a hard engineering school, that the worst case is if I don't make it, I can always transfer somebody somewhere else. But if I do make it, and I trust that I will, I'll be an engineer. I didn't even know what an engineer did, but
We
You
still
know,
don't.
yeah, so Willie told me this, when you're picking and deciding, especially with sports, you see a lot of kids that'll say, "Well, I get a full ride here, I get to do this, or I got a visit here, but it's not gonna do whatever it is." Use that opportunity, especially from a small town, use that opportunity to get yourself somewhere you wouldn't be elsewhere, or you
Mm.
wouldn't be able to elsewhere. Whether that's the school that you couldn't get into without some level of athletics that's playing a role in that, or if it's the ability to go and pay for school,
Yeah.
get your school paid for. If you can't go to school because of finances, then go or use that opportunity to go to the best place to set yourself up. Don't go because it's the best school for the app. Or if you're going to be a pro, absolutely go. If you're going to go make it to the NFL, go there. But if you're planning on the future, use that opportunity to pick the best place for you to go
Mm.
for the future. So sorry, to get back to your question, going to mines, it was a shell shock, both in culture because I was not used to I mean, these kids had taken Calc 2, Calc 1, Calc 2 in high school. They were, I mean, their parents were engineers. My dad was a welder, my mom, and he owned his own welding company. I thought I was going to be a welder most of my life. And then I got the opportunity to have my college paid for due to wrestling.
Mhm.
That's the only reason I got a college degree. It wasn't because of anything else. I thought I was going to be a welder, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. That's what my younger brother is, and I think it's a fantastic profession. Um, but I got the opportunity through athletics, so I came in there with a little different mindset than some of these kids. Some of these kids grew up that you had to have a college degree. You had to be an engineer to be successful because their parents did, and that's what they were taught their entire life. And they also grew up way different than a person from Meeker or Rangeley would.
Right.
I was some crazy hillbilly to them, and I'm just a normal small town guy. Um, and it was almost, on the wrestling team, you got guys from Omaha, I mean, all over the place, all over the country, California, and they just grew up very different than what we did. And what I thought was normal was almost I was there's no getting around. I was made fun of for some of the things that I did and said, and I mean, it was just because I wasn't exposed to that. So culturally, that was a big shift. But on in the wrestling room, it was the same. It was just, it was just a couple guys wrestling, trying to be the best that we could. And you had guys that quit. You had guys that truly didn't want to be there. They didn't have that. They just got the opportunity and they jumped at it and said, I'll give it the old college try. And they were gone. Um, but at the end of the day, that was some common ground for that social social gap that I had with those guys. And I would never take back the way I grew up. I think it's the best way. I'm
Yeah.
biased, obviously, but, then you go to the competition again, it's a state championship match every time you step out on the mat, but that's great because same thing in the room, your practice partner's a state champion or state runner up, whatever it is. So you're getting that practice, so it's just a level up, and there is different levels to wrestling or any sport in particular, but I would say that that's the biggest thing is that you start to get used to your environment, and that was probably the biggest shift is you're just instead of that state championship match happening or wrestling a really, really good guy every day of the week, or let's say once a week during every match or whatever, you're doing it all the time, and then you go to the next partner and it's just as hard.
Yeah.
Or you go to the next competition and it's just as hard. Um, that was an adjustment, but it's the frog in the boiling water. You put a frog in,
Yeah.
I don't know if have ever said that, but or heard that, but you put a frog in boiling water, it's gonna hop out, but you put a frog in hot water and it's gonna stay in there. That's not a great analogy because the frog
Well,
dies. But
it'll yeah. That's all good. Hey,
yeah,
we're a
you
small town. You can say that stuff.
yeah, so you just get used to your environment and it starts to become the normal.
So how it sounds like you're pretty grounded. It sounds like you got some faith in there, you got good parents. How did you not let the college scene take some of that out of you? Because it seems like I've seen it. Kids go to college and they let them tell them what their parents said was bogus or whatever. How did you stay grounded in college with that mindset?
You know, I this again, we haven't gotten into anything about role models, but I never believed in role models. I know this is going to sound super weird, but I always believed in getting the best out of every person and creating your own archetype or whatever you want to call it out of the best of everybody. Because if I was let down a few times when I had some people that I semi looked up to growing up. I was let down. But I chose to look at what uh, what they could provide in mentorship in what because not everyone's 100% bad or 100% good. We're all a little balanced. Someone might be real. There's always something to learn about somebody. So I always believed in trying to find at least something to take away from that person
Mm.
to kind of build myself with, right? You can do that in college. You're gonna get. I went to mines, so there's not a lot of partying going on. Not gonna lie, everyone else is suffering. They're all engineering majors. I think they might have changed that now, but pretty much everyone's suffering. So I didn't have a lot of bad influence in partying, luckily, but I don't think that would have changed it. I I knew what I was gonna do, and I have my integrity is a lot to me.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna let somebody tell me what I'm going to do if it doesn't match with my moral code, if per se, my and maybe not moral, but moral and more. Just my own code of ethics. I don't know the right terminology for this. I haven't really defined it, but what I'm going to do for myself and what's going to push me to that ultimate goal of being the best that I can be. I know what the compass is. I might get a little bit off track every once in a while, but I knew that I was. It was those micro decisions. And I had the ability to learn from a lot of people. Some I didn't necessarily care to hang out around a lot, but I tried to
Mm.
get a little bit of good out of every person that I interact with, and I still do to this day.
Oh, that's good stuff. It's interesting. You keep saying the word micro decisions. I don't think that was a phrase I ever thought of as a high school kid. Um, but I hope through this, we're going to get some kids to think about just little decisions because they build. And I don't think people they build either the good way or the bad way. And I've definitely I built them the wrong way. You being the oldest child, I think you guys, like my older brother, has a different mindset and different way of doing things. He is who he is, and he's not going to change. The middle, as I am, he's all over the place. I don't know if you have that in your family or not. Where the and Robbie's he's good to go. He's a smart kid. Um, and we all got places we can work on. But how many siblings did you have?
So I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My sister was a freshman when I was a senior, and my brother was an eighth grader when I was a senior. So they're 13 months apart.
Okay. Did
Yep,
you did it put pressure on them, you being so good?
absolutely. Um, I would like to say that I would. I mean, it absolutely did,
Oh yeah.
and I was not there. And again, it's not
You're in
my
college.
yeah, I was in college, so I didn't have a lot of effect on that because a lot of this was in high school. My sister was there for a little bit, and she's a fan. Both of them were fantastic athletes. My
Mm,
sister, she could have played college in volley or sorry, softball, basketball, or track. Um, she made this decision to become a shot or a discus thrower for CMU, which was the least or was the last sport we thought she would try. But I think that was kind of out of she made a rash decision and she kind of didn't. I don't think she would make that decision again if she had it to do over with.
mm,
Um, my brother, he probably had it the worst.
yeah.
Um, he was a fantastic athlete growing up, and he was definitely a better wrestler than I was, but he got to the point where his freshman year, he was compared to me because I had just left. I had just won my 4th state title a couple months before that, and he comes into the wrestling room, and he's not instantly better. Well, I had 4 years to plus some to get to that level, and he was instantly being compared to the level that I was at that point, and that was unfair to him.
Yeah.
But he still continued and he tried,
Mhm.
but the weight of that was a lot for him, and I don't know if he would admit it or not, and I didn't see it at the same time, and I don't know if we ever talked about it directly, but I probably didn't understand that level of pressure either. I mean, I don't know if there was kids that were I know for a fact that there was kids that would bring it up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my we kinda teased him about it a little bit internally in the family too, but, you know, I would take that back if I could. I didn't realize the impact that that would have. And, in my competitive mind, it was going to push him. But again, it's like that parent that's yelling at their kid. We did that to my brother unintentionally. And I think that probably changed at least his athletic trajectory.
Mm,
Um, which, yeah, that sucks. I mean,
yeah,
I wish I could take that back. I wish I could help. Um, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. But it's something that hopefully somebody else can learn from this conversation. That at the end of the day, your actions do have consequences, and you got to be just because you aren't directly doing it doesn't mean that haven't affected something else. So I think that's another one that that one cuts deep because it's my own
well,
family, and
yeah,
I feel like I had a part in that, and that he also has a great like he's done great for himself, and but he definitely did not perform to the best of his ability in athletics just because he kind of just didn't care.
mm,
His defense was not to care. Um, and maybe that changed his opportunities to go to college.
mm,
I don't know. We can't know
yeah,
for certain, but I know for a fact that he didn't care as much as he cared when he started, and towards the end, it just that died. If
yeah.
you want
That's
that burnout, maybe that's burnout. I
that
don't know.
pressure. Or,
Yep.
well, and it's good. I'm glad you went there because I think it's important. Because I think sometimes men don't go there. They want to share the vulnerable side of life, which I was raised in that you don't share vulnerabilities, which I think is crazy because we have them. So hopefully this will help someone because we learn from our mistakes, pass that on. And if we can help other people, that's the whole goal of this channel is to help people. For my side, I wasn't as good as I should have been. I was a crazy partier, um, tried to do everything my older brother did earlier in life, and I always got in trouble. So, but I think it's good to share some of those things. So let's wrap this up. You've talked about coaches, parents, some of your mindset. You as a teammate, how did you? Because I think that's huge. Because when you're on a team, it's you're a part of something. And in this day and age, with so much out there, even in a small town, they're getting more distracted. But what kind of teammate were you? How did you manage that? And how did you encourage people on your team?
I'd like to think I was a great teammate. I think everyone always does. I don't know if I can answer the question without being 100% sure of what I'm saying because it doesn't matter how I felt about being a teammate, it's how other people
Right.
perceived it. Um, you can try to do everything right, you can try to do all that, but at the end of the day, your teammates are going to take things differently than you perceive them in your mind. Um, and I think that's important to understand. So if you think you're doing being a great teammate by trying to push them or help them, maybe that's not what's actually helping them. And you got to curate that. Every person is going to be different. So being aware of that, and I'd like to think I was aware of that, and I'm not saying I think I was a bad teammate. I don't know if I was a good teammate. I'd like to think I was, but that's not for me to decide. That was for my
Right.
teammates to decide.
Well, flip it then. What did a teammate help you with? What was something that did they ever help you in a situation?
Absolutely, every day. Um, we had a fantastic wrestling. I'm just going to use wrestling as it's the easiest example, but we had a fantastic wrestling room. Casey Turner, Devin Pontine, Chase Rule, Tyler Ilgen. I mean, I know I'm missing people, but uh, to get the point, we had a fantastic team in high school and in college. I had a fantastic college team as well. We won two more RMAC titles as the first time in the entire
Oh,
program's
really?
history when I was a junior and senior. Um, but I would say wrestling is slightly different because people can easily slip into being selfish. and doing it just for them. Because wrestling, it's just you and them or you and an opponent on the mat, but that doesn't necessarily matter. It's showing up every day, not giving up, being the best you can be, best partner you can be. And, if I show up my best and my partner shows up his best, we're going to be better for each other, right? And I had teammates that always did that growing up, and I like to think I always did that for them. And sometimes you got to be self-aware enough. Just beating the hell out of somebody in the wrestling room doesn't help somebody. Sometimes it does.
Right.
Sometimes there is situations where that matters and will help them. Um, but there's also times where I've had bad teammates, and I'll give an example of that. Teammates that were selfish,
Mm.
teammates that would try to, put the pedal to the metal every time. You're not going to be 100% every day. And if you think that you've never been in athletics or at a level that you've been able to notice. But I had a teammate that, you know, tried to hammer and hammer and hammer, and he thought he was helping, but it was ultimately for him. But I also had a teammate that hurt me in my junior year, um, and then asked if he could wrestle the duel the next day. He gave me a season-ending injury after practice, um, with my knee in college. So there's good and bad
Mhm.
on these competitive and being competitive. And I'd like to think I was a good teammate. I tried to show up for people when even off out of athletics when it
Yeah.
came to somebody needing help. I tried to be that person. Um, yeah, sorry, that's kind of a non-answer, but that's just my general opinions. I'm kind of puking just information out here.
That's all right. We have been talking for over an hour, by the way, which is awesome. So one last thing, if you were to give a speech to the wrestling team or the football team, I think the speech to the football team would be more fun actually. But what would some things you would say in that speech?
I would just say, think of what you're doing every day. Um, every day you come in and everyone wants to win. No one wants to be a loser, right? But be careful of what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're perceived by others. And I know that's going to be opposite of what a lot of people will tell you. They'll tell you not to worry about what others think, but what your actions will inevitably affect the outcome for a lot of people. And even if you're trying to do good, um, sometimes it does the opposite effect. It almost smothers the problem and makes it worse, adds fuel to the fire. So come in and try to be your best every day. Don't worry about necessarily doing the right thing, or I guess worry about doing the wrong thing. Focus on doing the right thing and focus on those little micro decisions of every day. Those will build up, right? You're going to have a micro decision every conversation. I mean, during this conversation that we've had, I've had micro decisions on what to say and what not to say, right? And those are
Right.
all going to build up to be what your character is, what you are at the end of the day. Focus on those and try to do what's right for you and what's right for the team. What is your goal? Do they align? Hopefully,
Mm.
if you're in football and wrestling, hopefully you're gunning for a state title, team state title. And the best way to win a team state title is to win as many matches as possible or be the best team you can possibly be. But you also need that teammate. So
Right.
think of those micro decisions, I guess, is the biggest takeaway I can come from. And I've never articulated that before. So sorry it's so but
No,
I
that's work.
really, really like that thought process
The
of
micro
having.
decisions I think is good because it gets people to slow down.
Mhm.
And just think about what they're doing it for, which is what I'm trying to get people to do in this podcast and in some of the courses. So I appreciate your time coming on, man. I think it was a great interview, and there's so much there. We didn't even get into academics. That was a goal of mine because I think academics is important, and some kids need to focus more on that. But maybe that'll be for another show. So, but thanks
Yeah.
for the time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, bud.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate you having me.
You bet.